All right, this is chapter 4, section 4, called Egyptian Achievements. And the big idea is that the Egyptians made lasting achievements in writing, architecture, and art. Main ideas: the Egyptians developed a writing system using hieroglyphics. So that was the name of their writing system, which is hieroglyphics. And the Egyptians created magnificent temples, tombs, and works of art. So, main idea one: the Egyptians developed a writing system using hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics was the Egyptian writing system. That was the name. Egyptians learned to write hieroglyphics on papyrus, a long lasting paper like material made from reeds. So it's kind of like what our paper is today. And that's different than the Mesopotamians who used clay. And their scribes wrote on papyrus using brushes and ink. So more type of writing like we have today. You'll watch this video. It's a very short, kind of silly video on how they made papyrus, but it shows you pretty well how they made papyrus. Historians learned how to read hieroglyphics after discovering the Rosetta Stone, which was written in 3 languages: hieroglyphics, a later form of Egyptian, and then Greek. The Rosetta Stone was an actual stone that they were able to find. I think it was in 1799 that they found the Rosetta Stone. We learned about this earlier in the year, if you remember. And when they found this stone, it was written in 3 different languages. And they didn't know what the hieroglyphics meant. They didn't know what the later form of Egyptian called Demotic meant either. But they knew Greek. Since they knew Greek, they were able to decode what the hieroglyphics meant because the message was written in all 3 forms of that writing. Egyptian writing. Egyptian hieroglyphics use picture symbols to represent sounds. So you can see that these pictures here represent these sounds. And then you'll see most of their writing in all different types of art as well. Main idea 2: the Egyptians created magnificent temples, tombs, and works of art. Egyptians believed the massive temples were homes of the gods. People visited to worship, offer gifts to the gods, and ask for favors. Temples had stone sphinxes and other statues, and we know what a sphinx is because we just did the sphinx activity in class. An obelisk is a tall, 4-sided pillar that is pointed at the top. So if we take a moment to look at it, one of the most famous obelisks in our country is the Washington Monument. This is an obelisk. And painted walls and columns that also had hieroglyphics. Okay, so that's temples also had painted walls and columns that had hieroglyphics. Egyptian art filled tombs. So Egyptian art was filled with lively, colorful scenes. Art showed historical events, everyday life, and religious events. So that's what most of their art was about. It was either a historical event, things that they did in everyday life, or religious events. Painting had a distinctive style in which people's heads and legs are always seen from the side, but upper bodies are shown straight on. Tombs contain works such as art and hieroglyphics on walls and columns, stone statues and carvings. Egyptians were skilled stoneworkers. And you should know that just from seeing the pyramids, that they were very skilled in stoneworking and carving. And then jewelry. Okay, so in these tombs, there was art, hieroglyphics on the walls and columns, stone statues and carvings, and jewelry. And some of these tombs, like King Tut's tomb, that's where they found all those things in the 1920s from King Tut's tomb. And we looked at that earlier in the year as well. We saw all kinds of things. We saw jewelry. We saw statues and carvings and hieroglyphics on the walls. So after this video, you're going to watch a video on papyrus and how they made papyrus, and then you're going to complete the quiz for this section.